Good. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, especially in this very auspicious month. Especially welcome to Carlos, who is a friend and associate of Induleka Mataji. So thank you very much, Mataji, for letting Carlos know about this and joining us. So it's really, really nice. Always very refreshing when we see a new face. So thank you so much. So what I wanted to do was just give a very brief summary of the pastime, the pastime of the Lord that we are talking about. This is the pastime of Lord Krishna. He doesn't have to, the Lord doesn't have to come to our world, this material world that we live in. He lives in the spiritual world where most souls live. We unfortunately have sort of rebelled against the Lord. So we are in a hospital trying to get cured. And the Lord comes to our world to remind us about himself. Not just his greatness, because his greatness is pretty much well known. We know God is the cause of all causes. Most people accept that. He's all-knowing, etc., etc., etc. But it's to show us his sweetness. And when we can understand the sweetness of God, we can fall in love with him. He already loves us. He loves us unconditionally. And he is missing us. We are not in the spiritual world. We are his lost children. And he wants us back in the spiritual world. So when he comes here, especially when he comes here in his original form as Sri Krishna, he performs these sweet, loving pastimes. And the idea is we get to know these pastimes, we get to remember these pastimes, we get to hear these pastimes constantly. And gradually, gradually, our heart softens and we become closely attached to this Supreme Lord. So this is one of the most endearing pastimes that the Lord had when he came to this world 5,000 years ago. And it's such an important pastime that we celebrate it every single day for 30 days. One whole month is spent just celebrating this one pastime. So that shows the importance of this incredible event that took place. It took place on the day of Diwali. And I'm just going to take you through some of the pictures very briefly so that we can come to the point where we left off last Sunday. Oh, yeah, thank you. So Mother Yashoda, of course, God has no mother. He is the mother. He is the father of everyone. But he takes, especially when he comes to our world, he loves being pampered like a child. And he takes an incredible personality to be his mother. Her name is Yashoda. And she is truly glorious because she views Krishna as her son. She knows he's special. She even has in the back of her mind, because he keeps showing her his divinity, that he's the supreme personality of Godhead. But that's by the by. He's my son, and I will love him as my son. And also, when he's wrong, I will correct him as my son. So anyway, whenever she's close to him, she's always really amazed at how beautiful he is. Every time she sees him, she can't recognize it. Wow, you've grown even more beautiful. This is the Supreme Lord. His beauty and his qualities are always increasing. So on the day of Diwali, Mother Yashoda, she woke up early. Everybody had gone away from the palace that they live in. Nand Maharaj, the husband, had gone to his brother's house for another celebration, as did Krishna. Brought his elder brother from the spiritual world with him as Balaram, and he also went with Krishna's father, as did Balaram's mother. So it was really only two of them in the palace. So Mother Yashoda, she wanted to make some butter for the Lord because she'd heard so many rumors and complaints that your son is stealing, coming into our homes and stealing our butter. So she was thinking, the maids we've got, they're maybe not making the butter so nice. So today, I'm going to make the butter. While she was making the butter, she was singing the glories of the Lord. The Lord woke up and he saw his mother was so busy singing about him that he became attracted to that singing as well. But then he remembered he'd been fasting all night. He was hungry. So he went over to her, stopped her churning, asked her for breast milk, which she gave. But then she also was looking after the milk on the stove, which was overflowing. So she put him down and she went to attend the milk that was overflowing. And that made Krishna furious. How dare she stop feeding me? I've had a few little drops of milk and I was fasting all night. I've got an empty belly. He was so angry. For the first time, he was naughty at home. Normally, he would be a goody two-shoes at home. Because that was his protection, because all these complaints would come against him. But Mother Yashoda used to say, what are you complaining about? Look at him, he's such a beautiful young boy. How can he be naughty anywhere? Because he had this enchanting smile. But this time, he was so furious that he decided, I don't care. I will get my way. He broke the churning pot. He broke into the storeroom, his mother's storeroom, and he stole a butter pot, which he started eating. But if you look at him here, he's looking a little scared because he knows his mother's going to come any minute now. And she does, but he's run for it before she's come. He's gone. She comes, and for the first time, it's dawned on her, oh my goodness, he is naughty, that boy. She was a little bit proud that, oh, how smart he is. He's only 3. But then it dawned on her, who's going to marry him? If he's this naughty, I'm going to have to discipline him. So she traced his footsteps. There were footsteps all over the place, full of butter, little lovely footsteps of the Supreme Lord. He was so cheeky. He would eat a little bit, but then he would feed the monkeys as well. Monkeys were good friends of his from a previous incarnation. And then this is the Supreme Lord, all-knowing, the intelligent of the intelligence. But he was not intelligent enough to keep an eye out for Mother Yashoda. He was feeding the monkeys with his back to the back door of the home. Now she came and she had a stick in her hand. He was informed. He ran, he fled, especially because she had a stick in her hands. Now, this is the personality who the sun is afraid of and rises and sets every day. The moon, similarly. Everybody is scared of the Supreme Lord, hence they do their duties. And he was running scared of his own mother. How extraordinary. And was he scared? The learned opinion from the devotees is yes, he was truly scared. He is God, but at the same time, he is a child in this particular mood at this moment in time. And he really was scared, but he's also Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those two things go hand in hand together. For the Lord, that is how he gets pleasure from dealing with his devotees and how his devotees reciprocate with him, like Mother Yashoda is chasing him. And chasing with a stick. And that was something which Krishna never had experienced before. So that made him really scared. Eventually, she got him. And the person who yogis meditate on lifetime after lifetime, but with the speed of mind, but they still can't catch the lotus feet of the Lord. She grabbed him by the belly. She tricked him, actually. That person who can never be tricked by anybody, who tricks everybody into this world. She tricked him. She said to him, he said to her, drop the stick and I'll stop. And she hit the stick behind her clothes and said, I've dropped it. Why don't you stop? And he did. And she caught him. So this is, I think, roughly where we were, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's see if we can, get back onto this. Yeah, please. Okay. Let me just do one thing. Sorry. Okay. She catches him. Yeah. Krishna looked up and marveled at the beauty of Yashoda Mai. And similarly, Yashoda Mai was marveling at his beauty and cheeky nature. Mother, you ran. So this is where she was asking for explanation from Krishna. Why did you do it? Mother, you ran to save the boiling milk, and your anklet struck the churn and pierced it. Why blame me? Thereafter, the Lord inspired some monkeys to raid your storeroom and steal its contents. Why fault me? So he was really intelligent, right? Giving all these lovely excuses. Yashoda Mai was mesmerized by Krishna's eloquence, even though every word was a lie. But she wanted to hear more. Then, as I was trying to save your yogurt from the monkeys, you attacked me with a stick, treating me as if I was a common thief. Without pity, you chased me like a shadow, even though I was frightened to death.
Though you are born in an aristocratic family, by befriending monkeys, you've taken on their qualities.
There it was again. Krishna's compared to the monkeys. Mother, if you think I'm a monkey, then maybe I should go to the forest and live with my monkey friends. Yashoda was shocked. Think things have gone too far. Who knows? This boy might just do what he says.
I will tie you down right here, right now, so that I can return to the house and clean up the mess you made.
Krishna couldn't believe what he heard. Oh, Rohini, where have you gone with my brother? Oh, Balaram, come quickly. Mother wants to tie me up. Help, help. Although Rohini and Balaram were too far to hear Krishna's call, it did not fall on deaf ears. The elderly ladies came running, but jokingly goaded Yashodamai to punish the boy.
How many times we have complained about the havoc your son creates in our homes, and you would constantly ignore us. Now he has plundered your own home, and you finally see the light of day. Let us help you punish him.
Mother agreed. He must be tied down. The ladies, as well as the demigods, were amazed at the audacity of Yashodamai. So that brings us to, we actually refer to a scripture called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is a really very advanced scripture, contains 18,000 verses. And there's 10 cantos. This 10th canto talks just about Krishna and his pastimes. And this chapter 9 and 10 describe this very pastime we're talking about. So this is text 13 and 14.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no beginning and no end, no exterior and no interior, no front and no rear. In other words, he is all pervading. Because he is not under the influence of the element of time, for him there is no difference between past, present, and future. He exists in his own transcendental form at all times. Being absolute, beyond relativity, he is free from distinctions between cause and effect, although he is the cause and effect of everything. That unmanifested person, who is beyond the perception of the senses, had now appeared as a human child, and Mother Yashoda, considering him as her own ordinary child, bound him to the wooden mortar with a rope.
So the village ladies continue talking.
How extraordinary this scope is. Although she has seen her son's supernatural powers, the deliverance of Putna, Trinavarta, and the cart demon, she still plans to tie him up.
So this is where Krishna showed his divinity. There was a witch who came at the age of 6 days to kill him, but he sucked the life out of her. At the age of 1 year, the wind demon came and took him high in the sky. He became as heavy as a mountain, and in that way delivered this demon. And there was a card demon. He just touched him with his foot and he was also delivered. They saw all these wonderful activities Krishna was doing, but they would never believe. They would always think, oh yes, Vishnu has saved him. Narayan has saved him. He's a very special child. Yashoda Mai requires two things to tie up Krishna, an anchor and a rope. Near the entrance to the courtyard lay the mortar, which Krishna had used to sit on and feed the monkeys. He was incredulous. Yashoda Mai made her intentions very clear. Taking him the few steps to the mortar, she was going to bind Krishna to the mortar.
Since you're so fond of mortars, I will marry you to this one.
She was also thinking, this mortar has helped you in your pastime of feeding the monkey. So I'm going to punish the mortar as well. Now for the rope. With the graceful movement of her left hand, she took a golden cord that bound her braid at its root. Yashoda Mai thought about which part of the hymn to bind. Did we do this last week?
Maybe. Okay, I think just hold it there.
Okay.
It's okay.
His hands and feet are too small, and he would be able to wiggle free. Best at the waist, around the belly, as his chubby behind and scheming head would not allow the rope to slip free. Yashoda Mai giggled. Krishna was not amused. He thought, both time and death for me, does she not know I am beyond time and death? No, she doesn't. Krishna has no beginning, nor does he have an end. Yet his motherly affection does not allow Yashoda Mai to think of Krishna as infinite. The first cord was obviously too short for his waist. So she took another cord from her hair, but realized that she would need something for the mortar as well. Many Bijbasis were watching this amazing event unfold. Yashoda Mai spotted two of her maidservants, Kurangavati and Lavangavati. She ordered them to bring some soft, smooth rope from the house in a hurry. They ran into the house and quickly brought two churning ropes for Yashoda. The gopis assisted Mother and tied the four ropes together, and Mother attempted, with the help of Lavanga, to tie the rope around his waist and the mortar. Krishna still can't believe what Mother is planning to do. Who does she think I am? The watching demigods, Brajbasis, sages, birds, monkeys, gopis, gods, all debated amongst themselves about how Yashoda Mai will achieve this monumental task. So even the devatas, the controlling personalities who look after this universe, they were watching from the sky. They were amazed what's going on. Krishna tried to reason with his mother. Do you think it's right that you punish me like this? Father would be much more lenient and he would reason with me. Mother was determined.
You were not just mischievous, but you were also offensive.
Okay, so this is another verse, the next verse, in fact, 15.
Taddhamapatya manasya sarvakasya kritagasa divyangulonam abhuddena sadadeyanya chagopika. When Mother Yashoda was trying to bind the offending child, she saw that the binding rope was short by a distance the width of 2 fingers. Thus, she brought another rope to join to it.
So this is the magic of Krishna. So he was offended because Mother Yashoda said, you are offensive. But anyway, he didn't have time to argue with her or be bound up. He had to play with friends, houses to ransack, ladies to charm. How can he be restrained by some rope? When Yashoda tried to knot the ends around Krishna's belly, it was short by 2 fingers. She tried in different ways and different combinations, but every time the rope was always 2 fingers short. She ordered more rope. All the Brijbasis participated and cheerfully brought more rope, knowing that some extraordinary activity was happening. They would tie the ends, and then Yashoda Mai would again try to tie the rope around Krishna's belly but it was always 2 fingers too short. Everybody marveled at the phenomena. The demigod said that the Lord is medium-sized, infinite, and infinitesimal.
Infinitesimal.
I'm finitesimal. Thank you. Simultaneously. So he's smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest, and he's also medium-sized. And he applauded his inconceivable potencies. Brajvasis were enjoying the occasion, sometimes teasing Yashodamai, sometimes encouraging him, sometimes calming, and sometimes laughing.
Yada sittadapi nyunam tenanyad api sandade tadapi dviangulam nyunam yadyadata bandhanam. This new rope also was short by a measurement of 2 fingers. And when another rope was joined to it, it was still 2 fingers too short. As many ropes as she joined, all of them failed. The shortness could not be overcome. Evam syageha damamni Yashoda sandadti api gopinam sushmayantinam smayanti vishim tabhava. Thus, Mother Yashoda joined whatever ropes were available in the household, but still she failed in her attempt to bind Krishna. Mother Yashoda's friends, the elderly gopis in the neighborhood, smiling and enjoying the fun. Similarly, Mother Yashoda, although laboring in that way, was also smiling. All of them were struck with wonder.
So they were actually enjoying this pastime. And this verse is a testament to this, that even the Yashoda, although she was strict, actually she was enjoying this aspect of motherhood where she could discipline her son. Every piece of rope was added was intact in its original length, but the aggregate shrank so that it was 2 fingers short. All the rope in the village, palace, cowshed was used, but it was not to be. Nonetheless, although tired, Yashodamai did not give up. Her determination was an expression of her love. The same can be said of her anger and of her sense of obligation to discipline Krishna. Indeed, her entire being was a manifestation of maternal love, and so Krishna accepted her chastisement as such. However, Krishna thought, there is no match. There is no one to match the loving devotion of my mother. I exist by the grace of the dust of her lotus feet. But that love alone is not sufficient to restrain me. 2 more things are required. That is the significance of the 2 finger with gap. Until my devotee exerts themselves fully in service, bhakta parisram, and until I take compassion on them, mat kripa apta, I do not become theirs. So these 2 things are needed. We have to put the effort in, and then we depend on the Lord's mercy. So, number 18.
Swamatu Srina Gatraya Vishrata Gavara Sraja Dristvapa Shriyanam Krishna Kripaya Sit Swabandhane. Because of Mother Yashoda's hard labor, her whole body became covered with perspiration, and the flowers and comb were falling from her hair. When child Krishna saw his mother thus fatigued, he became merciful to her and agreed to be bound.
When embracing Krishna, Yashodamai called for more rope. The elder gopis spoke amongst themselves that,
how unusual that Yashodamai can tie her arms around her son, but not ropes. How is this possible?
So there you go. She's got both her arms around him, but she can't get the rope around him. Incredible.
No matter how hard she tries, Yashodamai is unable to realize a plan. Such an over endeavor. Why does she not give up? You are our queen and advisor to the king in matters of state, but yet you cannot even tie your own baby. There are supernatural forces at work here, and it would appear that Krishna is none other than the Supreme Lord himself.
Yashodamai acknowledged their wisdom with a nod of her head. For a brief moment, she understood Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But only for a moment. To her, he may be Supreme Lord, but he was also her son. She had undertaken to tie him just after sunrise. And although the sun had begun its descent, her efforts remained fruitless. We've been told this. We've been trying to tie the knot for hours. She'd been trying. Overwhelmed with fatigue and frustration, she sat down to review the plan. Sorry, I think this is where we were last week. So we've sort of double covered a little bit. At that moment, Krishna reasoned, she is so determined to discipline me. Such devotional resolve must be honored and rewarded. Perhaps I should give up my stubbornness and let her have her way. My divinity is of no significance to her. How marvelous that her love for me is not tainted by any awe and reverence, but simply a desire to please me, protect me, correct me. The rising compassion in Krishna's heart implored him, give yourself to her, do as she wills, not because being bound is part of her eternal pastime, but because she wants it. Yashoda Mai wiped her brow and reflected on what had been happening and what has been said. And she was giving up the idea of binding Krishna. At that same moment, Krishna decided, I submit. Yashoda Mai had been knotting ropes for hours. Although she decided to stop, by the agency of Yoga Maya, her hands continued the momentum. So she tied one more knot. And that was the knot which bound Krishna. Okay.
Maharaj Parikshit, this entire universe with its great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Indra is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet the Supreme Lord has one transcendental attribute. He comes under the control of his devotees. This was now exhibited by Krishna in this pastime. Neither Lord Brahma nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self.
This is so significant. He comes under the control of his devotees. So devotees who are completely faithful, completely love him with their very being, as he is, not as a Supreme Lord. If we worship him as a Supreme Lord, fair enough, that's fine. But that's not enough. We have to get to understand, get to know the Lord as he is. And he's more than just the Supreme Lord. He has a divine personality. And devotees, they become attracted to that divine personality. And then he allows them to do whatever they like. So this is 3 years actually. As soon as Krishna was bound, the 100 lengths of rope miraculously appeared and fell in the carpet around him. Seeing this, Yashoda Mai was bewildered. Looking more closely, she saw that Krishna's belly was now bound with the 2 original silken ropes that came from her plaited hair. Only those cords could contain Krishna. All the other ropes for churning had been of no consequence. Yashoda Mai now consciously tied together the 2 cords into another knot and then quickly tied one more knot just in case. She also checked that the knots were still there. Mission accomplished. The transcendental thief has been caught and bound. Now she can move on to the next task at hand. She took the rope which had been tied to the mortar and connected it to the cord encircling Krishna's waist. Then she proceeded to give him one more telling off.
I hope you will now learn your lesson and follow the saintly conduct of your father instead of the mischief of the monkeys.
Here we go again, Krishna thought, reference to the monkey insult again. Yashoda Mai stood up before turning to leave, addressed Krishna.
You will stay where you are until I clean up the chaos that you've made. In the meantime, there will be no play and no toys. When I'm done, then I shall come for you and we will go and see the Diwali celebrations. Do you understand?
Krishna sheepishly lowered his head, feeling completely humiliated before his friends and whimpered, Yes, mother. Yashoda Mai embraced and repeatedly kissed his cheeks.
You started this day off as a troublemaker. Now finish it as a good boy.
Telling his friends to stay there and keep an eye on Krishna, Yashoda Mai turned with a victorious smile, inviting her gopi friends to help her clear the mess in the house. Again, showing service to Krishna takes precedence. So she left Krishna because she wanted to serve Krishna by clearing up the mess. The remaining gopis teased Krishna.
Oh Prince, now that you're bound, Dhamma, around your belly, Udara, we shall call you Damodar.
His friends joined in, calling Krishna, Damodar, Damodar. And Krishna thought that this is how everyone will now tease him. Insult added to injury. As time passed, of course, this Damodar Lila became a fond memory. Krishna will treasure that name as one of his favorites. At present, though, it sounded like an insult, and he made his displeasure known with a frown on his face. As soon as Mother Yashoda left, Krishna cast aside his sad face and false tears. He assumed a composed demeanor and filled the courtyard with the moonlight of his smile. Making the best of his predicament, he boasted to his friends, "Just see how I kept my mother at bay." The boys answered,
It was a memorable exhibition. Now, tied to this motor, what will you do?
bound to the motor, Krishna had found ways to play with his friends. That's where we were.
Yeah.
That's where we were. Okay. Friends who are pure devotees wanting to play with him as a friend. Remembering his predicament, Krishna's eyes would now and then well up with tears. Seeing this, the monkeys became increasingly excited, and his friends lovingly tried to console him. Some boys tried to ease caution as embarrassing. Oh, yeah, that's right. They tried to offer him a snack. And Krishna would say, "Well, friend," the friends would say, "Would you like me to ask my mother for some yogurt?" And Krishna he was really sharp. Krishna became aware of his hunger when they said yogurt. And he would say to them, "Wait a minute, your mother is at my home, so why bother her?" The skirmish with the mother actually crossed the timeline of many meals, and he hadn't eaten for such a long time. Some of you should run to your homes and see what is available. In great happiness, the boys would run home and bring whatever was available and feed Krishna. In this way, they enjoyed a picnic. Then Krishna started to test the mortar. How heavy was it? He started again pulling the mortar. To the applause of his friends, Krishna slowly dragged the mortar here and there, occasionally sitting down to catch his breath.
Krishnastu griha kriteshu vyagraham matari prabhu adrakshit arjuno purvam guyako danan datmajo. While Mother Yashoda was very busy with household affairs, the Supreme Lord Krishna observed twin trees known as Yamala Arjun, which in a former millennium had been the demigods of the sons of Kuvera.
Okay, so this was his mission. At the sound of the word, oh no, so that we did that. This, his mother's final words to him were still ringing in his ear.
My dear boy, your whimsical conduct has now come to an end. If you think you are so clever, then free yourself of this rope. Go ahead, pull the motor behind you and go wherever you like.
And that's what he did. He decided to pull it, and pull it he did. To the delight of his friends, he was pulling the motor. But where would he go? Aware that his mother could easily hear the Gopas cheer, Krishna placed his finger on his lips to calm them. Then he remembered Narad's curse to the demigods. Recognizing the two stately urchin trees, he decided to invoke his divine powers to liberate the demigods in the trees. Krishna remembered the past lives of the demigods.
Puranarada sapena rikshatam prapito madat nalakuvera manigrivo iti kyayatu shriyanivito. In their former birth, these two sons, known as Nalkuver and Manigriv, were extremely opulent and fortunate, but because of pride and false prestige, they did not care about anyone, and thus Narad Muni cursed them to become trees.
They were the sons of Kuvera and lived a carefree life of opulence and sense enjoyment. Kuvera is the treasurer of the demigods, very wealthy, and their sons, they were reckless. Unlike their father, who dutifully managed the wealth of both the demigods and men, Nal Kuvera and Manigriva squandered their time loitering in the Chaitra Ratha garden. Intoxicated and decorating themselves with jewels, they enjoyed the company of young girls. They were intoxicated not just by the Varuni drink, but also by false pride, thinking themselves unconquerable as the sons of Kuvera. Once they were enjoying with the Apsaras within the holy waters of Ganga, due to arrogance, the demigods had abused the privilege granted them by Lord Shiva and committed the offense of using a sacred place for sense gratification. Without notice, Narad Muni suddenly appeared. He was absorbed in thoughts of Krishna's pastimes. When the Apsaras, the girls, saw Narad, they immediately covered their naked bodies and warned the demigods to do the same. However, the demigods were too intoxicated to hear or understand the warnings given by the girls to cover themselves. Narad thought,
The pride of the two demigods needs to be curbed so that they can become eligible bhakti. Therefore, I will curse them.
although it was an offense on the part of Narad to curse demigods, yet he also wanted to give the opportunity to these two demigods to get direct vision of Krishna. Narad expressed anger at the two demigods, not just at their ignorance, but also their pride. Nalakuvera and Manigriva didn't seem to care, remained proud and indignant. Narad cursed them to become trees. However, he also wanted them to advance spiritually. This is the thing with Narad Muni especially. When a great sage curses, that curse actually is never a curse. It's a blessing. How is this curse a blessing? To become a tree? We shall see. Therefore, even in the body of trees, he allowed them to be fully conscious of their past offenses, fully remember Narad's teachings. So he expressed teachings to them, and that is in 10th canto, 10th chapter, 8th verse till 23rd verse. He also made them aware of their surroundings. So these three things helped them become conscious. They're not just like ordinary trees. They were like people within the trees. They were unlike ordinary normal trees. In this way, they progressed to pure devotion. Their progress to pure devotion would be unimpeded. Narad Muni thought,
I cannot give them a curse that does not result in bhakti.
when the demigods heard the curse, in one sense, they were relieved, as it could have been much worse. Narad could have cursed them to become demons. But they were also quite sensible. They made one request to Narad.
O Lord, your punishment is suitable. However, if we must be trees, please allow us to take birth in the holy land of Vrindavan by drinking Yamuna water, by standing in Vajra's soil, and by being in the company of desire trees, we will obtain the seed of pure devotion.
Narad was pleased. He completed the curse by informing the demigods that Krishna was to appear on earth after 20,000 years. They would stand in the courtyard of his father's residence. After witnessing Krishna's pastimes as an infant, the Lord would personally deliver them from the curse. So, before the Apsara's unbelieving eyes, Nalakuvera and Manigriva disappeared from Kailash and appeared in a faraway Gokul as twin saplings. Narad turned towards the Apsaras, who were motionless in fear of also being cursed, but Narad simply gave them a warning glance. Although they had behaved indecently, they had shown shame and remorse. They witnessed the activities of Narad, and the seed of devotion was planted in their hearts, and eventually they would excel as Vaishnavis amongst celestials. This is the power of the devotee. Even a moment's association with a devotee, whether it's in a happy moment or an unhappy moment. This was an unhappy moment. It still has such a big impact on one's life. This is why associating with devotees is so, so important for our spiritual life. And conversely, if we associate with those who are very materially minded, then that can have a very detrimental effect on our spiritual progress. So it's a double-edged sword. Narad was on his way to Vaikuntha to see Lord Vishnu, but having cursed devotees of Lord Shiva, he decided instead to go to Badrik ashram and disclose his heart and mind to Narnarayan Rishi. So he didn't feel like going to see Vishnu because it's not good to curse the devatas because they're actually also servants of God. But this was done for their own benefit. Having relieved the history of how the two demigods came to become trees in Gokul, Krishna knew that the initiative was his. Narad had promised the demigods that the Lord would free them from his curse. And Krishna, duty-bound to keep the promises of his devotees, would act according to Narad's will. He thought,
Narad is very dear to me. For his sake, I will free the demigods, bless them with supreme devotion, and send them back to their abode.
leaning forward, Damodar began to slowly crawl on his hands and knees. His friends watched. They were spellbound, like a spellbound audience of a drama, too enthralled to move or speak. Sometimes Damodar would pull the motor, sometimes the motor moved on its own. Both the rope and motor were spiritual forms and could act according to their own will. Both wanted to serve Krishna in their own way. Slowly, the distance between Damodar and the trees was closing. Intently gazing at the destination, Damodar took another few effortless steps while the motor positioned itself between the two trees. For this first time since they appeared, the demigods felt the touch of the Supreme Lord via the conduit of the rope and the mortar. They shivered in ecstasy. So the demigods were still trees. The Gopas were still up the hill, chatting and joking and fully enjoying Damodar's pastimes. The true trees felt an intolerable pressure leaning against them. Then gradually, gracefully, the stately urgent trees were uprooted. As the trees fell, their branches and trunks did not touch Damodar. The sound created was terrible. The first sound was the cracking of the tree being uprooted, and the second was the crashing of their hitting the ground. So we can just imagine these trees were 20,000 years old. They were huge, huge trees, and they came down with a huge crash. The sound was so loud that it caused the residents of Gokul to faint in shock. Only Krishna's friends were unaffected, covering their ears with their hands. They continued to sit where they were, calm and fearless. When they tried to stand in order to help Krishna, they were unable to. Yoga Maya, the Lord's energy, had immobilized them. Krishna needed some time alone to deliver Nalakuvera and Manigriva. Thus the boys remained curiously immobile, but able to cast wondering glances at each other. Krishna stood between the fallen trees and laughed just to show his immense progress to the Gopas. The thin rope for churning yogurt assumed such strength by his mercy. Seated on the ground with his legs spread before him, Krishna entertained himself by flicking the rope and watching it wave to the mortar. He laughed to see the ropes dancing. Although Krishna could uproot the powerful urgent trees, he was unable to free himself of his mother's rope of affection. Suddenly, the two effulgent forms of Nalakuvera and Manigriva emerged from the fallen trees. So this must have been an amazing sight because Krishna was simply just playing with the ropes and the devatas appeared. And then they started offering prayers and he was still just playing with the ropes. And it was really bewildering. Although they had been naked at the time of being cursed, they were now richly attired in celestial clothes, ornaments and crowns. Narad had ensured that they would not be unclothed when appearing before the Lord. The demigods rose in the air, and their striking beauty radiated splendor throughout the surroundings. The demigods thought, "Here is the Supreme Lord, for whom we've been waiting for so long." They bowed before the Lord. Krishna continued to play with the rope and mortar. He acknowledged their presence with a brief glance. However, he seemed more interested in playing than in the demigods. He's behaving like a child. The demigods had wonderful exchange with Krishna and offered praise to the Lord while the Lord played. In their bewilderment, the demigods just shook their heads and kneeled before Krishna and said,
We cannot understand your lordship. In trying to do so, we become confused and disorientated. Therefore, it is better that we simply offer our obeisances unto you and chant your names and glories.
Krishna then stopped playing and turned his full attention to the demigods.
You are right, I am the Supreme Lord. But if you fail to know me, then how can you say that I am who you think I am?
So this is such a confusing statement. This confused the demigods even more. And seeing their plight, Krishna showed mercy on the brothers and showed him his two-handed form with flute. So he changed from a baby into the two-handed form, the 16-year-old eternal form of the Supreme Lord. The demigods were in ecstasy because he wanted them to be aware of exactly who he was, because they said to him, "We're not sure who you are, but if you fail to know me, then how can you say you know who I am, who you think I am?" So he revealed himself. The demigods were in ecstasy and then offered wonderful praise and prayers. Understanding that the Brijbasis will soon be coming due to the noise of the falling of the trees, the demigods asked Krishna's permission to depart. Before leaving, they requested that they become servants of the Gopas. So this is a really important message that is given to us, that we should also aspire to become servants of the devotees in Vrindavan, in Braj. Very, very important. Pleased by their humility, he advised them to go to Narad, and by his grace, he will fulfill their desires. So Krishna is very kind-hearted. He said to the devatas, "Go to your guru. He will help you." So this is a wonderful painting. The two huge trees, two devatas, Krishna's there. He also told them that they can ask for a boon, and they asked to be blessed with pure devotion. So this is all the blessing of Narad Muni. Normally, a demigod would ask, "Please protect me from this demon," or something to that effect. But they asked for pure devotion. They also offered further prayers, which made Krishna laugh as he was shackled to the mortar. He thought,
These are not really ropes, but bonds of my mother's love. While I am bound by her love, demigods are bound by my Maya. Although they call me the Lord of Gokul, I am tied to a calf. What kind of Lord is that? While they praise me, the scolding of mother is so much more pleasing.
so he laughed because they were praising him, but he was bound. They were free and he was bound, but they were praying to him. But he was also thinking, actually, their prayers are nice, but the scolding, the telling off by my mother was much more pleasing. So he was laughing, and that confused the demigods. Why is Krishna laughing at our prayers? So then Krishna actually became serious, and he started telling them.
Your past life and Narad's kindness to you is well known to me. Had Narad not desired it, I would never have shown mercy to you offenders. That would have been contrary to everything I stand for. However, Narad was kind to you regardless of your offensive behavior and awarded your punishment that would bring you to your senses. He took away the source of your blindness, which was your wealth. But by Narad's mercy, you have already been freed from your bondage. Therefore, asking for mercy
is gratuitous.
Had you not seen Narad, you would not be seeing me. Hence, your suffering would have continued.
So this is the kindness of a devotee. That is why we need to take shelter of a devotee. The devotee, he has Krishna in his heart. And if we see in this case, Krishna was duty bound to keep the word of his devotee Narad. So we sometimes think, oh, in this world, especially, I can do my own thing. I can get a job. I look after myself. I sustain myself. This is the nature of Maya. In this world, we want to be independent, but actually we're always dependent on the Supreme Lord. And when we become especially dependent on his devotees, then the Lord's mercy actually flows much more, much easier. Like he's saying here, had you not seen Narad, you would not be seeing me. By Narad's mercy, you have already been freed from your bondage. So this is, the devotee is even more powerful than the Lord, because the devotee desired for the demigods to be freed. The Lord was duty bound. He had no choice but to free the demigods. So this is a really powerful message, very, very powerful message of this Lila. Krishna wanted to wrap up his conversation with the two demigods so that he can get on with the more important matter of playing with the gopas. Raising his right hand in a gesture of blessing, Krishna said,
Nalkubar and Managriv, you may both return home where your family is eagerly awaiting you. As per your desire to be always absorbed in my service, I assure you that it will be fulfilled in a way that your domestic life will not pose an obstacle. Whatever you want will be fulfilled by Nara's desire. By his grace, you have developed love for me and thus attained the topmost goal of life. Keep Narad always in your heart, and because I'm always in his heart, you shall never be separated from me. Your material existence has now come to an end.
so this is a really phenomenal blessing. Normally, Krishna would send, or Vishnu would send the devotee back to heaven. But here, they may go to heaven, but then they're going further into the spiritual world. So they're really fortunate. Nalkavera were broken-hearted to leave the Lord, but they had to. Bowing down one more time, the demigods turned and rose into the sky, and sorrowfully looking back at Gokul, which had been their home for so long, they left for the heaven. Okay, so this is a different chapter now, 10:11. Ulu kalam vikashantam damna badam swav atmajam vilokyananda prashashad vadano vimumochaha.
When Nand Maharaj saw his own son bound with ropes to the wooden mortar and dragging it, he smiled and released Krishna from his bonds.
So this we actually retold some of the story from last time. So we probably going to carry on for another half an hour at least. So we may not have time to finish off with our usual prayers. I hope that's okay. Hope devotees don't mind that. But I think we probably should try to finish today, because tomorrow we've got another celebration, which is the Tulsi Viva. So I hope that's okay. With the demigods gone, Krishna was now free to resume his role as cowherd boy. He wanted to resume that role, and he longed for his friends. Standing up to better see over the fallen branches, he caught sight of them in the distance and signaled to them to come play with him. The boys were now free from their invisible bonds and were reunited with their glorious friend, embracing him. This must have been a most amazing time for the Gopas. They didn't know whether to cheer Krishna or to caution him.
Wait till your mother sees your latest antics. And you think the mortar punishment was bad? She will tie you to these other trees and make you stay here overnight.
So they were teasing him. The boys laughed at Krishna. Krishna crossed his arms and said in defiance, go on.
I can pull mountains if I want to.
The boys laughed.
Raising his voice, he said, wait and see. Not only when I move a mountain, but I would also lift it. You wait and see.
So this is him foretelling what's going to happen. He's going to live Govardhan. Sridham said,
We will wait for that day. But now tell us, who are those two beings you were talking to?
the boys had seen what happened boys had seen what happened to Krishna and described it to Krishna. That's right. That's right. However, Krishna tried to downplay his role in toppling the trees. These boys, he was thinking, can never hold a secret. There were spirits living in the trees who broke out of the tree when their curse finished. The gopis were not convinced. The gopas, the friends, were not convinced. But Krishna changed the subject and started playing with the mortar, a new game. In the meantime, the Brijbasis looked around to see what could have caused such a terrible noise. So they got up from their fainted situations. Sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear. So they were really confused. Some gopis visiting from Raval came across Krishna and his friends playing amongst the fallen trees. And they reported this to Yashoda Mai. She thought, oh no, trees have fallen on Krishna. She fainted out of great anxiety. In her faint was a panic. She was dreaming. She was running towards Krishna to rescue him. But actually, the ladies were trying to revive her. In the meantime, Nand Maharaj had returned with Rohini and Balaram. Nanda quickly headed towards the scene of the calamity. Perhaps a demon has attacked Krishna. The Gopas took sticks as weapons. Some of the boys noticed the cowherd men coming and warned Krishna.
You are in real trouble now.
Krishna told the boys to hide. The boys were giggling and with Krishna having great fun in this adventure. The cowherd men looked for Krishna, but not seeing him, they looked for demons or signs of demons like footprints, but found nothing. At that time, Yashodamai and her friends arrived, and she was frantic with worry. It is said that the force of the devotee's pure ecstasy can reach such heights as to neutralize Krishna's divinity. When her mother was present, Krishna was unable to remain hidden. He whispered to his friends,
"Let us surprise them before they discover us."
So Krishna and his friends started playing with the mortar in the open. And when the Brijbasis saw them safe, they were elated.
How did he appear so suddenly, especially as he was still struggling with the mortar?
At first, the Brijbasis could not make the connection between Krishna, the mortar, and the trees. However, Yashoda Mai recognized the relationship between the three, and she thought to herself,
what if the trees had fallen on Krishna?
She was speechless and immobile when her husband and the others rushed to Krishna. Yashoda Mai remained where she was, fighting to see through her tears. Meanwhile, they worked out that the mortar was the cause of the toppling of the tree. They were perplexed, especially as Krishna was still tied to the mortar. They said to each other,
Krishna could have been crushed and killed. No doubt Lord Narayan has protected him once again.
Krishna could never do anything phenomenal. It was always Narayan. Narayan's protected. Krishna was there, their baby, their beloved. Nanda Baba was contemplating how these two powerful trees snapped at their base like twigs. His brother Nanda suggested, as the children were with Krishna all along, they may know what happened. So the Brijbasis looked at the children, who were as perplexed as the adults. But unlike the adults, the boys were not bewildered by the mystery of who felled the trees, but by the sweetness of Damodara. They knew that he did remarkable things. It was Krishna, he did it. And they shared the pastime. So they told exactly what happened. Krishna dragged the mortar between the two trees, crashed the trees to the ground. The demigods came, prayed to Krishna, and then they left, flying to heaven. Of course, nobody's going to believe that. But at least it was some sort of explanation. So then after the friends told the truth of what happened, Krishna was a little concerned that the cowherd men may think he's God, and they might start showing reverence to him. So to offset such a possibility, he started applying his talents to his childhood play. He tugged at the mortar, making grunting sounds and showing irritation and not being able to easily move it. Observing Krishna's activities, the men said to each other,
What fertile imaginations the boys have. What stories will they not make up to glorify their friend?
Nand Maharaj moved closer to his son. This was the first entrance into this Leela. Krishna was a little reserved, fearing further punishment. But Nand Baba's concern was for his son's well-being. Seeing the boy playing with a new toy, he inferred that Krishna was not hurt. And affectionately running his hands over Krishna's every limb, he confirmed his boy was safe. When Krishna moved the mortar a little, Nand Baba's chest would swell with pride at his extraordinary son. Although he had no doubt about the extent of his wife's love for his son, Nand Baba was surprised at the punishment that his wife had imposed on Krishna. So he had heard about this, right? The cowherd boys already told him. First, binding him and then leaving him alone without thinking of the dangerous consequences. That was negligence. However, more than anyone else, he understood and revered Yashoda Mai as the perfect mother. In their parenting, she was stricter and he was the permissive, doting father. To encourage Krishna, Nand Baba smiled at him to reassure him. His father's reassuring countenance eased Krishna's mind and he smiled widely in return. His father was not upset, even though he'd been so naughty. Casting a mildly reproaching glance at his wife, Nand Baba leaned over the mortar to untie his son. Before doing so, he looked back at Yashoda Mai and as if to ask, "May I?" Except for Yashoda Mai, no yogi, no jnani bhakta, however competent, had authority to bind the Lord to a mortar. And only one who was her equal, Nand, her husband, was qualified to free Krishna from the chains. And even then, only with her permission. She's much more powerful than Nanda. Yashodamai replied with a faint but anxious yes. With this empowerment, Nanda Baba first untied the rope binding the mortar, then he turned to Krishna and untied the rope from Krishna's waist, repeatedly chanting, Govinda Damodara Madhava, Govinda Damodara Madhava. So this was the embrace, and that gave huge ecstasy, not just to Nand, but also to Krishna. With Krishna free and embracing him, he smelt his head and covered his cheeks with kisses. As the rope that bound Krishna's belly fell to the ground, it manifested its full length, which was aggregate of all churning ropes and cow ropes in Gokul. Nand Maharaj was too absorbed in the ecstasy of loving his son to notice. Even if he had, he would have simply shrugged off the marvel as another one of the great mystical events that follow his great son. In the spirit of a mistreated child, he started to cry. So this is Krishna. And tearfully, he reached his arms towards his father, bending low. The Nanda Baba lifted his son and held him close to his chest and said,
Oh son, where is the evil-minded person who tied you to this mortar?
Krishna leaned towards father's cheek and wrapped his arm around his neck, speaking into his father's ear, but loud enough for others to hear. He replied, Father, it was mother who did it. His eyes found his wife, who was now trying to hide behind her friends.
That cannot be. Son, you must be mistaken.
No, father, she did it. You can ask any of the others here. They were there too. Nand Baba turned to other ladies, but they all lowered their faces or covered their eyes with their veils. The king was upset that his son had been placed in jeopardy, but he knew that Mother Yashoda will regret her conduct, and no words of reprimand from him will match her self-censure. He knew the depth of her love for their son, how much pain that love must now be causing her. So he did not chastise his wife. The young boys closed around to comfort Krishna and confirm Krishna's words. Nanda Baba to Nanda Baba, and they told Nanda Baba what happened. Here you go.
When Krishna went between the two trees, the motor got stuck sideways and the trees fell with a crash. The trees fell sideways and never touched Krishna, not even a leaf. Smiling as if he believed the boys, Nand Baba remained doubtful. These boys go on, the stories that dream up. Then the Vrajavasis came to reassure Krishna that his ordeal was over. First came the men and then the women. They caressed Krishna, smelled his head, offered words of comfort, and then joined together in the Sankirtan of Krishna's pastimes as the Brahmins recited Vedic hymns. The only ones who did not come were Yashoda Mai and her friends. Yashoda Mai stood behind the trees watching the proceedings. Too ashamed to remain, she, assisted by her friends, returned to the palace, covering her tear-stricken face with her veil. At the moment that Yashoda might reach the palace gates, Rohini and Balram arrived from Sahara. Yashoda Mai embraced Rohini Devi, crying uncontrollably. News of the fallen trees had already reached them. However, Rohini did not expect this. Why was Yashoda Mai so distraught? She turned to Balram and asked him to bring his brother to the palace. She knew that Yashoda Mai's sorrow can be cured by the embrace of Krishna. Handsome Balram ran down the hill. He was looking for the legendary urgent trees. Where are they? In the meantime, Yashoda Mai was inconsolable. Only when the joyful Vrajavasis entered the palace with Krishna was she able to compose herself enough to go to her apartment and lock herself in.
Nand Baba wanted to purify his son from the day's misfortune and decided on a bath in the Yamuna. As they walked hand in hand to the river, Balaram caught up with them and embraced Krishna. He asked Krishna a barrage of questions.
What is this new name you have? Why did mother tie you up? Did you really pull down those trees?
So Balaram is the elder brother, and he was actually always his protector as well. Although Yashoda Mai was very powerful, even Balaram couldn't counteract her chastisement. But Krishna was upset. He was reserved. Just when he needed his brother the most, he wasn't there. He felt abandoned and would not respond in his usual affable self. Balaram was taken aback by Krishna's sulky mood, but a wink from Nanda Baba told him, be patient. 3 of them went to Rajghat, accompanied by singing Brijbasis and mantra-chanting Brahmanas. After bathing and performing purificatory ceremonies in the Ghat, Krishna and Balaram distributed gifts to all those who were present. So this is an etiquette which observed to this day, actually. Many people go to the Yamuna, they bathe, and then they give gifts. After this, they went back to the palace wondering, would there be a meal, any dinner? Now, remember, Krishna's missed a few meals, right? Of course, dinner was ready. Rohini Devi, she reminded Yashoda that her son had not eaten since the morning. And even that was an unfinished meal. As sad and embarrassed as she was, Yashoda Mai immediately set about the task of organizing dinner. So she was really, really cut up about what she did. But yet, to serve Krishna, it didn't matter. She was willing to forget about her sadness to serve the Lord. She guided her maidservants and friends to the palace kitchen and cooked herself. Meanwhile, Rohini Devi set the table in the grand dining hall, presuming there will be many guests for dinner. After the meal was prepared, however, she'd done her service, she again felt the weight of guilt and retired to her own chambers, which she locked. Even a moment seemed like a lifetime to Yashoda Mai, who was waiting until fate would again reunite her with Krishna. As dinner was ready, Nanda Baba and his sons, together with the guests, entered the dining hall and were happily discussing the day's events. In the meantime, Yashodamai remained seated on the edge of her bed, staring at the door, waiting for Krishna to open it. But he did not. After dinner, Nanda Baba took Krishna and Balaram to the cowshed to oversee the milking of the cows. There was specially a beautiful white cow which Nanda Baba would personally milk. Today, he showed the two boys how to milk this majestic cow. He filled a bucket of milk from her, then gave the milk to the two boys and also to Krishna's friends who were with him. Today was Diwali, and there was an evening of festivities, but Nand Baba decided it was wiser to resolve the conflict between mother and son rather than attend the festivities. Nand Baba was such a wonderful father, but he was a fantastic husband as well. He knew Mother Yashoda must be completely distraught. They headed back to the palace. The ladies informed him that Yashoda Mai had not eaten and was not speaking to anyone and was feeling very sad because she tied up Krishna. But her sorrow increased 1,000-fold by her son's neglect of her. Because he would always be crying out, Maya, Maya, anything he needed. It was always Maya, Maya, and never Baba, Baba. But now it shifted. Nanda Baba embraced his son and placed him on his lap and put the question to Krishna.
Dear boy, these ladies say that your mother is very sad. Will you go in, appease her like a dutiful son?
Krishna looked up at his father and replied assertively, no, I will not. From now on, I will always remain with you, father. The ladies asked Krishna,
if you do not go to your mother, and whose breast will you suckle?
Krishna was ready with an answer. I am a big boy now. I will drink warm milk from the white monarch of my father's cow, just like I did today.
Then with whom will you play? Who can entertain you in those ways in which your mother is most apt?
My father. I will play with my father. He is the empress of all gamesters, and I will play with Balaram as well. Krishna had forgiven Balaram because Balaram related to him that he was forced to go with Mother Rohini. And if he had stayed behind, Yashoda Mai would not have been able to tie him. Of course, I think Balaram's overstating his strength. He was, of course, overestimating his power in relation to Yashoda Mai's love for Krishna. There was no contest.
What about your brother's mother, Rohini Devi? Will you go to her?
I will not go to her either. She abandoned me, as a result of which I was shackled all day. When Rohini heard this from Krishna, tears welled in her eyes. She loved Krishna even more than Balaram. Searching for some way to uproot his stubbornness, she appealed to Krishna's love for his mother.
Oh, my son, how can you be so heartless and cause your mother such pain? Even Dhruv Maharaj forgave his stepmother, as did Lord Ram. Why can you not find it in your heart to do so?
The authority of the father's support fueled Krishna's huff. Turning from Rohini to Nanda Baba, he had no answer to his questions, so he buried his face in his father's loving arms. Nanda Baba embraced Krishna tightly, but he could sense that the boy still longed for the sanctuary of his mother's tender warmth and love. For Krishna, there was no embrace like that of Yashoda Mai, even though he was certainly enjoying these rare, tender moments with his darling son. Being free of any trace of envy, this is the most amazing thing about Man Baba. He devised a plan to conjure up Krishna's suppressed affection for his mother. Holding Krishna at arm's length and in a tone of royal proclamation, Nand Maharaj raised a slightly threatening hand and said, Son, say the word and I will give that woman a suitable thrashing. As king of Braj, I cannot tolerate injustice. If a sin is perpetrated by one of my own family, I must act on it, lodge a complaint, and just see what I will do. So this was quite a shock. Nand Baba's strategy worked like a charm. The very thought of anyone striking his mother obliterated Krishna's huff and brought tears to his eyes. Getting hold of Nand Baba's threatening hand, Krishna shouted, "No, no, you cannot." As a perfect strategist, the monarch unfolded the second phase of the scheme. Appearing to ponder Yashoda Mai's past conduct and her present isolation, Nanda Maharaj said, "You are right, my son. Someone who put another in mortal danger should not be surprised if fate metes out the same punishment to them." The ladies of the court gasped. Krishna called her again. "No, that cannot be, never." Krishna was finally unable to tolerate separation from his mother. Jumping off his father's lap, which delighted Nanda Baba, and frantically cried, "Where is my mother? I have to go there. Where is she?" Krishna ran to Rohini for shelter, repeatedly crying, "Where is mother? Where is mother?" Rohini comforted the boy and embracing him, reassured him.
Do not fret. Come with me. I will take you to your mother.
After what seemed like eternity, Yashoda Mai saw her door open cautiously and silently. Only Rohini and Krishna were so bold. It was both. As soon as Krishna saw his mother through his tears, Krishna ran weeping to Yashoda Mai, climbing onto her lap and wrapping his arms around her neck. The aggregate of all happiness in the world, when multiplied 1,000,000 times, cannot match a drop of the ecstasy that Yashoda Mai felt with Krishna in her arms. And similarly, if the aggregate of all the love in the world was multiplied 1,000,000 times, it could not match a drop of the love that Krishna felt from Yashoda Mai's embrace. So you can just imagine what that moment must have been like. Holding each other heart to heart, they both felt complete, for each was a half of the whole that was their union. So when they're together, there's much more a happiness than when they were separate. Rohini Devi reminded Yashoda that Krishna must be hungry, as he had missed several meals. When Yashoda Mai heard the words, "Will you not feed your son?" she immediately came to external consciousness, and like a dutiful mother, she pleased Krishna with her breast milk. Rohini Devi had the dining table set by the maidservants in the privacy of Yashoda's quarters, and said to Yashoda,
"Now you must dine with your son, for he has been picking at his dinner without your presence."
Hearing these words, Yashoda Mai finally rose to her feet with Krishna still in her arms and took a seat at the table. Balaram also came rushing to Yashoda Mai, and the queen embraced him with her free arm. For each morsel that Krishna ate from her blessed hand, Yashoda Mai would eat an equal amount. "Mother, eat more."
"If you eat more, I will match you."
Krishna was won over. However, Yashoda Mai could hardly face her husband. She also feared the censure of the villagers. However, now those fears had to be put aside in order to serve Krishna. Krishna was tired. Balaram and Rohini took their leave, and Yashoda Mai lovingly held Krishna in her arms for some time. Amazing picture this is. Then she placed him in the same bed from where he rose that morning. Krishna asked his mother to tell him a story. She told him the story of Dhruv, which Krishna, especially when Narad advised the little boy, Krishna really liked the story, especially when Narad advised the little boy. So Dhruv was a son of a king who got insulted in the palace. He was told to get off the lap of his father. And Dhruv, he was only 5, but he was so determined. He said to his mother, this has happened. What should I do? Yeah, you can go to the forest and worship the Lord, and he will make everything right. And that's what the boy did. 5-year-old boy went to the forest, and Narad Muni at that time took pity on the boy and advised him and gave him a mantra. And Dhruv chanted that mantra. And in a short 6-month period, after doing a lot of tapasya, Lord Narayan actually came before Dhruv. So Krishna really liked this story. And he actually said to his mother, I want Narad to be my guru as well. Such an amazing, amazing pastime. Then he fell asleep. For 3 days, Yashoda Mai remained in her chambers, afraid to appear before the king. At the start of breakfast on the 4th day, Nanda Baba requested his son, my boy, my mother is sulking. So your mother is sulking and has thus deprived us of her excellent services. Please go to her and only in the way that you know how, ask her to once again grace us with her presence. We miss her terribly. Krishna immediately went to fetch Yashoda Mai, and soon after he emerged with Yashoda. Her face was flushed with embarrassment. Nand Maharaj did not say anything negative to her, concluding that her pain in exile, in days of exile, was sufficient punishment. He said, O goddess, whose glories are sung throughout this land and beyond, O you who are maternal affection personified, although we have eaten excellent preparations in the last 3 days, without the touch of your lotus hand, even the best food has not satisfied us. No matter what Rohini Devi cooks, your whimsical son will not eat because it has not been served by you. Please save him from wasting away and thus save us all who only live for him. Yashoda Mai's eyes welled with tears, her heart flooded with bliss, and symptoms of ecstasy danced in every limb over her body. Yashoda Damodara ki jai. In the days following the reconciliation of this divine family, the Brijabasis continued to give moral support to both Queen and her darling son. The ladies hungered to help heal the wounds caused to both Yashodamai and Krishna from recent events. They would, like honeybees attracted to Krishna, and his irresistible smile, his sweetness, his smile, features, speech, everything indescribably attractive to the senses, mind and heart. Everything he did was, everything he was or did was a novel intoxicant, and every moment with Krishna was a festival of indescribable joy. And just as he completely mesmerized the Brijabasis, Krishna was completely mesmerized by them. Yashoda Mai ki jai. So this is the end of the pastime of Damodar Lila. And I'd like to thank the devotees for allowing us the privilege of retelling this pastime, which has, it's really attracted the devotees over centuries and centuries to become close to Krishna. And this name of Damodar is so dear to Krishna. And we have this great privilege and honor to celebrate this month every single day. So I was wondering if there are any comments, any questions, any realizations about this month.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice, Prabhuji. I didn't know about after the Nalakuvir and Manigriva were released from the trees. I didn't follow the continuation of the story about how Mother Yashoda behaved and how Krishna behaved, how Nand Maharaj, and I didn't know about this. So today I learned about this. Thank you very much. Much appreciated for this nice class you have given. And also, when you were reading the Bhagavatam, you were saying it's an advanced book for us, right? Maybe you were referring to Carlos. He already have a set of Bhagavatam, he's already reading, and he's already doing Damodara Arti every day. I think he's better than us, you know, because he plays his guitar and he does his arti also. So I'm sure he has lots of questions, and he's very eager to learn. So we are here to support him. So thank you very much.
You're just like mother.
Yes, I am his
Very
his
good.
mother.
Very good.
Mother. He calls me
Very
Mataji.
Very good.
Thank you.
It's very endearing, Mataji. Very endearing.
Thank you. He's just like Anil. They ask lots of questions, but he has questions. Yesterday he had a question that let me remember the question. Yes, Vyasadeva, because he was a grihasta, he was a householder, and he was a liberated soul as well, because he was the incarnation of the Lord, the literal incarnation of the Lord. So he was asking, someone was asking the name of Sukadeva Goswami, which I did not know. And he was asking how, because he was a householder, was bound to this life of householder. And we were telling the story of Satyavati and Parasar Muni, and how did Vyasadeva appeared. So it's not like nowadays people will have this ghastly union, bodily union, and then a child is born. But they were procreating through their vision and their mind. So his question was, did Vyasadeva did the same for Sukadeva Goswami? This
yes.
I didn't know.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, the pastime. Very nice question, young man.
Yeah. And also, if you know the name of Sukadeva Goswami's mother, please tell him.
Oh, yes. I do know, but I've forgotten it. But what happened with Sukadeva Goswami is a really phenomenal pastime. And this is something very unique as well. Sukadeva Goswami originally is Srimati Radharani's parrot in the spiritual world, who came with her in this world. And his service was to pass messages to the other gopis, from the gopis to Radharani, like that. And these parrots have such an intimate service with Radharani. So when Radharani was leaving this world to go back to the spiritual world, she said to Sukha, the parrot, you have a mission to accomplish in the future. So you have to stay in this world for some time. And Sukha was really thinking, no, I don't want to stay. I want to go with you. Because he loves Radharani like anything. But she assured him, don't worry. There will be discussion on philosophical matters, which will pacify your distress of separation from me. And especially Lord Shiva, go to Kailash and listen to him. So he did. He went to Kailash. And at that time, Lord Shiva was reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam to his wife, Parvati. And Lord Shiva was really engrossed in the Bhagavatam because it's such as you know, it's such an amazing scripture. But Parvati, she was feeling a little dozy. She fell asleep. But Sukha was there also listening, the parrot. And the parrot said it would make noises of Parvati, just to encourage Shiva to keep speaking. So every now and then, the parrot would say something like, give a hint to Lord Shiva that, I'm still here, I'm still listening, I'm still alert. Of course, Parvati was asleep. So anyway, Shiva, at one point, he stopped and he looked at Parvati and he said, oh, you're asleep. So when did you fall asleep? Oh, she said, I don't know, quite a while ago. So I've been hearing somebody who's been sounding like you. He was a parrot, right? He could imitate the voice of Parvati. And he looked around and he saw the parrot and he thought, hey, this Bhagavatam is a secret. Why is this parrot listening to it? He ran after the parrot with his trident. And the parrot, he flew off. And he flew off he came towards Vyasdev. And actually, he entered his wife's
mouth.
through the mouth into the womb. And that is how Sukadev Goswami was conceived. He wasn't conceived through the normal channels. And he stayed in the womb of, what was her name? What was
I remember now.
Does anybody remember her name? We do have it in our notes. Unfortunately, it's not got into our heads yet. But we can find it. We can find it. So what happened was he decided to stay in the womb. Vyasdev would ask his son, please come out of the womb. But he stayed in there 16 years. Eventually, Vyasdev requested Krishna to come and talk to the boy. So Krishna came and he said to Sukadev Goswami, I understand why you don't want to come out, but I assure you that the influence of material nature there will be no influence of material nature on you. I promise you that you will be a liberated soul, or you are a liberated soul, and you will remain a liberated soul even while you come into this world. So this is the pastime. There's a little bit more detail, but essentially that's the pastime. So good question. Do you have any other questions at this moment?
Pinjala.
And so I would invite him and all of us for the Ekadashi prasadam, because every time he called me, Mataji, what do we make tomorrow for Ekadashi? So he is very fond of keeping Ekadashi. So please let us know when we are going to share this recipes of Ekadashi, so that he can join.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Pinjala, there was a different name as well. Pinjala is the name of the wife of Vyasdev, but she was.
Is she Kayadu, Prabhu?
Kayadu is the mother of Prahlad Maharaj.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we will find it, don't worry.
Yeah, she was actually as saintly as Vyasdev, as knowledgeable as Vyasdev. Really amazing person. And I remember Guru Maharaj talking about Vyasdev and also Vyasdev's wife, how she would, she was such a loyal wife. Vyasdev was always, he's a literal incarnation of the Lord, but he acted like an ordinary human being. So he would get depressed sometimes and she would encourage him. And then one time he got so depressed, the only person who could help him was Narad Muni. So Narad Muni came and gave him his support. Amazing. She's an amazing personality. But we've got it in our notes, actually, in the Bhagavatam notes. I can probably find it in a minute.
So one question for tomorrow, Prabhuji. We start at 10, okay?
Your time, yes.
Yes, sorry. Colors in front of me, that's why I'm talking. Yes, also, yes, when the bride and the groom meets, usually we blow the conch shell. Will we be allowed to do that tomorrow?
Absolutely. We can go crazy.
Okay.
And we probably will go crazy.
Okay. Okay. So we'll be there tomorrow for Tulsi's Viva.
That's
and
right.
Yes.
So actually,
Yes.
it's 5 o'clock, so we've got a bit of time. If Carlos has got some questions, you're welcome to ask.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I have no questions for now. I really appreciate the very depth of the details of Krishna Damodara, because I am, like Mataji and Dilek said, I am participating in during this Kartik month in chanting the Damarashtakam, and that gives me like a lot of depth into what happened after he broke the 2 trees and liberated the 2 souls that were within him. Very nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
All of you.
It's good.
Thank you so much for your service.
No, thank you very much for attending. I hope it was useful. And where are you in the Srimad Bhagavatam? Whereabouts are you?
So I am currently listening to a podcast. It's called The Wisdom of the Sages. And these devotees are on Canto number 2.
I see.
But right now I'm studying on my own. I'm studying the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1. I'm on chapter 12. And with Mataji Indulek, I am on chapter 4, I believe, Mataji?
We are starting 4 today, yes.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That's really brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions, any comments? Sunita.
Hello, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for reminding me. It's absolutely lovely that we're learning all this from you. And like somebody else just said as well, I didn't know the story about the, I knew about the tying up. I didn't know the actual, the whole story of it and what happened afterwards with Yashoda Ma and everything. So thank you so much.
No, that's okay. And I have to say that this is all from Shivaram Maharaj's book, His Holiness Shivaram Maharaj. He has done a lot of research, and this is actually what the book is called.
Okay.
Just
These were
Janani. Just about. Can you see it?
Just about, you're just disappearing a little bit, fading into the your backdrop.
Oh yeah, let's take this off. 1 second.
I can see it's just fading slightly. I can see a lovely picture of Yashoda Ma, but
Oopsie, sorry. Yeah, take off the background.
It's a beautiful story.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, lovely. Oh, nice.
It's Damodara Janani, which means the mother of Damodar.
Okay.
And what Shiva Maharaj has done, he's looked at the commentaries by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's looked at commentaries by Sanatan Goswami, as well as Jiva Goswami. He's looked at so many different acharyas who've written about these pastimes. And because they are aware of these pastimes, because they are from the spiritual world, they've given a lot of detail, a lot more detail than it is in the Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
So that's where his source of information is from. And he's very kindly shared it. And all I've done is, as you can see, millions of typos. I've just tried to summarize.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right there. You can get it. There's things like Star Barrett and everything. They're doing Radha Krishna at the moment, but of course they're just skimming through the story. They're not going into too much detail at the moment. It's actually on TV as well.
And unfortunately, a lot of those programs don't actually give accurate description of the pastimes between Radha and Krishna.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's very much a cinema-driven programs and not driven by devotees, devotional service. So it's a little risky to watch those.
Yeah.
I know there's a recent one that I looked at.
I think they're up to, is it Rudra, who was the creation of Shiva? He's called Sam in it, and he's doing some really awful things. So I don't know how true that is. And he's turning Krishna against Shiva and things like that. It's going a bit. Some proof in what you've covered, but I'm not sure whether it's all sort of like true or how close it is to the scriptures.
I think you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So Srila Prabhupada guard us against the mundane people, the show and everything, because when you are giving this class, you are looking for your information from the authorized books, like the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, like from our acharyas, right? And like when I talk about Damodara Lila, I went through this Hari Suri's book.
The one which is good to watch is not necessarily just Radha Krishna exclusive, but the old Mahabharat
Yes.
series that was done
Yeah,
by the
I know
BBC.
that one.
shown
What
by
is the
BBC.
name of the book, Prabhuji, that Shivaram Swami has written?
It's Damodara Janani.
Janani or
Yeah, Janani.
Janani?
Janani.
The mother, right?
Janani. Janani.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I'll try to find if we can get here.
And the name we've got on our notes for
Mhm.
Vyasdev's wife is Vatika. Vatika.
Okay, thank you.
Vatika. Vatika.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Kaushalya?
Yes, Prabhu, I wanted to ask you one question.
Sure.
You know, this is Sukadev, when he was a parrot.
Yes.
So he heard this Srimad Bhagavatam. Who was saying that Srimad Bhagavatam?
At that time, it was
Yeah.
Shiva, Lord Shiva.
Shiva.
Yeah.
Saying to the Parvati, is it?
To singing to Parvati. That's right.
Ah, that's right. And then he ran away. I thought it was Amar Katha. Was it Srimad Bhagavatam?
It was Bhagavatam. It may have been some other katha as well, but
Amar Katha,
definitely-
I heard, in the Puranam. Yeah.
Right. But actually, Sukadev Goswami heard this 3 other times as well.
Okay.
It wasn't the only time that he heard this Bhagavatam. He heard it from Radharani herself. That was the original. But also he heard it from, who was he sitting with? Was it Maitreya? There was another couple of sages that spoke it to him as well. It wasn't the first time he heard it.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much. Anybody else would like to share anything? Otherwise, we can pray. We can do the prayers actually, because I was thinking it's close to 6, but it's UK time, but it's not. So we can do the prayers of protection. We'd like to pray for everybody's protection.